Hello, and welcome to the Week 13 devlog for QuiVr, my HTC Vive archery game. This week we have a couple system changes, as well as some new features to try out. One of which has been very much requested, and one which is still in progress and doesn't really add too much, but sets the groundwork for something that people have been asking for the most out of anything that I have shown so far. So, the big system change this week was in the enemy system. I now have much more granular control over the difficulty and what I can put out onto the battlefield while you're playing. Instead of only having information about what the most common enemy and second most common enemy and then a couple of individual spawn points, I now am able to actually use 2D curves to determine things like enemy density, the percent chance of an elite, as well as weighting the spawn chance of any enemy per wave. So if I want a wave of only skeletons and only flying skulls with one or two beetles mixed in, I can now do that much more easily. So I have much finer grain control over what's being brought out in each wave, which should make for more interesting encounters as you progress through the waves. Currently there are 25 well-defined waves, as well as I think 5 bosses. The ogre, the three-headed dog, the Cerberus, a kind of flail-wielding orc, as well as 2 giants, 2 different giants. So 5 bosses, 25 regular waves, and then it transitions into endless. I've made the game significantly harder, so we're not going to be seeing people hit up to wave 50 or 60. Really, you're going to kind of get overrun at wave 20, 25. This is because the system is still kind of a work in progress. There's still a lot of bugs, and I don't want you to feel like I've wasted your time if someone pops in and something wrong happens and the wave resets. I'd much rather that happen on a 10-minute game than a 45-minute game. So the game got a lot harder, but hopefully my next piece of information should make it a little bit easier. I have now set up the second tier of talents. So we have 3 new talents for the second tier. These are become available at wave 11. And we have Featherfall, which reduces the amount that your arrows drop by 50%, so you can shoot much farther and straighter. They kind of feel like moon gravity arrows. These are going to be great for long headshots and things like that. But if you are getting really good at the current physics of the arrow, then you probably will stay away from that. It's more for people who are having a harder time shooting and need a little bit of help with the arrow drop. We have Chain Lightning, which allows enemies, which allows your arrows that hit enemies a chance to arc out to 2 nearby enemies and deal pretty significant damage to them. They can one-shot some of the smaller enemies with that. So that's a really useful thing to get area of effect damage, especially when when your keep is getting hit pretty hard by enemies. And then finally, we have Flint and Steel, which is a talent that will allow your arrows to have a chance when you draw them out of the quiver to automatically be caught on fire, which should be a pretty interesting thing and is going to be the first chance-based effect that you will know about before you shoot the arrow. So as you draw the arrow out of your quiver, it'll be on fire if the perk procs. So these are 3 totally different talents than the ones below it. Again, you can pick one of the talents, switch between them at any time, and those will be given at after wave 11. I'm going to be, over the next week or so, in addition to working on the feature that I'll show you next, experiment with a different way of awarding talents instead of the wave-based unlocking system. I think I may look at experimenting with a point buy, or kind of a skill buy, where you actually use your score as the currency to purchase skills. So these low talents may cost 400 points. The higher ones may cost 600 or 700 points, up to maybe 1,000 or 2,000, so that you can decide whether or not you would like to be at the top of the scoreboard, or if you'd like a kind of harder hitting perk to maybe bring up your score later. To facilitate that, with new players, I've already implemented a system where if you join a game that's in progress, you have the score of the lowest person. So that should let catch-up happen a bit easier, because it works for everybody. If one person is in a multiplayer game and they start a game and they get 500 points, the next person to join in will start at that 500 points, and they'll be able to kind of battle out there. Then the next person in will also get that kind of the lowest points of those two. So in theory, it should always be fairly similar. There should never be one person with 3,000 points and one person with 50, just because they spawned in at wave 20. So I'm going to try that out. It's going to be very important if this, if a point buy or if a skill buy system is implemented, making sure that the new players, if you're on wave 30, you're not bringing everyone down because you don't have access to any of the skills. So I'll be trying that out over the next week or so, just kind of feeling it out. I'm going to have to write a different system that lets you, because if you buy a talent here and want to switch, I don't want you to have to spend the entire cost. It may be just a smaller sum, maybe 50 points, to purchase a different talent in the tier that you're in. Or if you've already bought that talent, to go back to it doesn't cost anything. So I have to work out the details for that system, but I'm very interested in trying it out because I think it'll make the game more interesting, and may even let you buy multiple talents in the same tier and maybe have a limit of 4 total. So if you really want the life leech and the ability to freeze enemies, you may be able to buy 2 of those in exchange for forgoing one of the other tiers. So there's lots of cool stuff that I want to do with the talent system. I think having a second tier available is really important for getting some of those systems working initially. So that's why I actually spent the time to bring in these new talents, because I'd like to start experimenting more with the system and how you actually get granted access to the talents, and that required a couple more being available. So in addition to the enemy system, which brought with it a new flying enemy, if you haven't checked it out already, go ahead and play it. There are other videos. It comes in a bit farther in the wave, so I'm not going to show it now, but it is a flying skull. And if you played or saw the very first couple of devlogs, where it was still in the little area when the alpha first released, you could spawn in these guys. So they're the same model, but they come in from the top over the arches and over the mountain and attack the door there. The other big change is the framework for a full menu and setting system. So the menu has now completely changed. There's a lot less buttons, but I wanted to do 2 things: get some settings options in the game and give space for additional options. So right now there are no additional actual settings. This is just the menu has changed significantly because I would like to add more in the future, and I needed this whole system to be set up before I could do that. So I was trying to figure out a good way to interact with menus in 3D space, but also kind of use the standard 2D system. So while a lot of people kind of attach things to your face, I thought it was pretty cool that originally the menu is in 3D space. I can walk around it, I can go up closer to it, and it's kind of a 3D 2D. It's kind of a 3D whiteboard, almost like a chalkboard, that has these options on it. because of that, we have some extra space around it. So the way that these menus work is you hit them and they pop out little panels. So we have the multiplayer panel, we have a settings panel, we can close them back up. We can do normal things like start the siege, which will kind of close out the menu. But these settings panels kind of wrap around. I think I'll probably be adding a bit more curvature to them because I really like the idea of being able to kind of wrap yourself in a menu. We have this full 3D space. We can turn around and look behind us. So having a menu that you kind of walk around as you explore into it, I think is a cool idea. I haven't really seen it in any games yet. So hopefully I'll get some feedback on this. If it's too annoying to kind of bring about, the big problem I see is that if you want to hit a button that's 5 menus in, that's really cumbersome to bring it up. So there's 2 things I've tried to do. One is you can close out the menu and then bring it back up just the way you've left it. You don't have to, it doesn't close everything for you. If you want access to menu number 7 over here all the time, you can just bring it back up, and nothing is wrong with that. Similarly, you can close single menus like that, and when you bring up you bring them up again, it'll open up to what you had. Obviously, all of these menus are very bare bones. They have only the same settings as the original menu did. So you can turn off the music. This still doesn't save. You can mute the mic, which is one of the only settings that does save its state. In the gameplay, you can open up the tutorial. This is the thing that people are going to, this and turning off the offset when drawing an arrow are the 2 settings that I will be adding within the next couple of days so that people will be able to try them. I have a really cool system that I would like to try for the calibrating the hands so that you can place the hands wherever you want, so that however you hold the controller, it will work for you. It's going to require a little bit of infrastructure to make sure that anything you pick up works well with your placement, but I think I have a cool system which I will be exploring this weekend and will have I'll be able to show in next week's devlog. Again, there'll be settings like turning off the offset when you draw an arrow, even things like automatically drawing an arrow when you put your hand in the quiver or something like that are things that I can explore with this settings menu, and even a couple more menus out if I need more space. This will give me a lot of room for adding cool settings that people have asked for, and I have a big list of settings that I want to include for everybody. Again, audio, while we have turn off the music here, it'll probably be a checkbox for the mic, and then sliders for setting for effect volume, music volume, and microphone volume. Pretty standard. Subtitles potentially for things like the tutorial. And then we have video settings, which right now is completely bare, but I am definitely interested in adding kind of the settings that everybody knows are going on in VR games. For example, letting you set the MSAA value, letting you choose how the render scaling works. I'm using the lab renderer for QuiVr, so we have access to the scaling resolution, scaling multipliers, letting you decide how low resolution the game is allowed to go before dropping frames. And so I do want to add a lot of settings, more menus, so that this whole system is very full-featured. And when people ask for a new setting, I want it to be very easy for me to implement it and then just put it right on the screen. Before, with the way the menu was previously, it just wasn't possible to add all of these options. Similarly, in multiplayer, we have the leave room and spectate options. So I'm in a multiplayer game right now. There's nobody on because I'm in a different server version, but I can easily hit leave room. It'll bring us back here, and we can join a quick match. The spectate option is only for if you are in a game, so let's go back into the quick match and open up the multiplayer menu and spectate. And you can see now I'm currently spectating. The menu for spectate has been dramatically trimmed down, and there is one option, which is stop spectating. If you want to leave or anything, you have to go back into the actual game first. And the reason for this is because I really don't want to have to manage two different menu systems. All of these options aren't available for spectating. Things like you don't want the spectator to be able to start the game. You can get all of your settings from the regular menu. I need the actual menu to be in a single place. So if you would like to adjust settings, you need to come back out of the menu or do it beforehand. Come back out of spectating or do it beforehand. So, I think that's it. Let me leave the room here. Obviously, I have this create private match. That's one of the things I'd like to add. Right now, it is not available because it just doesn't have. It hasn't been implemented yet. I may remove that button for now, or say something about it because I know people have asked for it, and if they see the button there and it's not available yet, they're going to ask why is it disabled. So I may just remove it entirely for now, but rest assured it is coming soon because I know that people would like to play with their friends, and it's annoying for everybody, including for everybody involved when people try to create private matches and they join into games and then leave and then join and then leave in an attempt to get into a game that one of their friends has started randomly, by random chance, because that's how the server, you kind of, when you hit quick match, you get placed into a random game. So those are the big changes this week. I hope to have more this week in terms of both trying out that point buy system, because that is definitely something I'm really interested in looking at, as well as fleshing out these settings menus. In particular, this gameplay menu. There's going to be a number of things added here to hopefully ease the pain of all of the people who have been requesting both stopping the offset of the hand because they draw the bow a particular way and that's kind of throwing them off, especially if they are real archer, if they have done archery in the past. The offset kind of makes them draw the bow, the string incorrectly, and while I am going to make sure that the default is the current mechanism so that people aren't hitting their headset, because I think that's much more important than making you feel uncomfortable, is keeping your very expensive hardware safe. I do want you to have the option to turn it off if you would like to pull the arrow back in a different way, in a more traditional manner. That's fine. So it'll be a setting for you. I think that's about it for this week. I am looking forward to the feedback. I've gotten a lot of feedback. I think the serious issues have kind of settled down with this new enemy system over the past couple days. It's been really kind of hectic, and really weird errors were popping up, waves not spawning, 5 waves at a time were coming in. But because I built it from the ground up as a multiplayer system, the single player is much simpler to let it work with multiplayer instead of what I had been doing before, which is trying to make a single player code base work for multiplayer. That was not fun to do. So now the system is much more modularized, it's compartmentalized, where the network system is completely separate from the regular game logic. And while they talk to each other, they very much keep their pieces separate. So I think that some of the major bugs have kind of settled down. We're now looking at people's perceptions and smaller requests, things like the hand offset, and being able to teleport on the little areas around here, being able to kind of move around those places. Those are kind of bubbling up to the top, so now I'm going to be able to spend more time on making the experience enjoyable for everyone instead of just kind of building the game in what I think is the optimal way to play it, because I know people hold the controllers differently than I do. People are used to shooting a bow in different ways, and I'd like to be as inclusive as possible. So I think that's it for this week. The other thing is that I think the performance has improved greatly. People are kind of stopping the flow of comments that are saying that lag starts on wave 15 or something like that. And people are being able to play the game more, even with slightly lower spec. It's still the game is still definitely CPU bound. There's a lot of things going on, especially spawning new enemies all the time. I need to implement a pooling system before long to make sure that those types of interactions with the game world itself aren't so taxing on your processor. But I think that's it for this week. The biggest change really was the new enemy system. It was a complete rewrite from the ground up. I trashed the entire wave system and wrote it all from scratch. And I think that the results are very positive. There's only been good that has come from that adjustment. So, thank you very much for watching the devlog. I hope to get continued feedback about what everybody would like to see. Make sure to check out the Trello page if you want to suggest things for settings to make sure I haven't already included them in there. Although I don't mind if you continue to request a particular feature, because it makes me, I know what people are asking for the most. So it kind of lets me set my priorities for what settings to add in which order. But thanks for watching. I hope to see you guys in game. I am pretty actively joining people for multiplayer games, and we talk and have a good time. And some people beat me on the scoreboard, but I'm usually up there. So I'd love to see you in game, and hopefully have you kick my butt. So thanks for watching, and I will see you in the game.